Salam, peace be upon you, part 26, the beginning of Phi Pattern dynamics, change as lawful transformation. 1. The old story we must outgrow. Most people carry an invisible picture of change. In that picture, time exists first, like an empty river flowing forever. Then things appear inside that river and they move, grow, decay, collide, and drift as the river carries them along. When asked why something changed, we often answer with a single word: time. Time passed. Time did it. That answer feels satisfying because it feels familiar, but it is not yet an explanation. It is a label. It is like saying a plant grew because growth happened. It hides the real structure that makes change lawful and intelligible. Phi pattern science makes a disciplined move here. It does not deny time-like experience. It does not deny clocks, seasons, aging, rhythm, or sequence. It denies something more specific. It denies that we may import time as an undeclared primitive container at the foundational pattern layer. Instead, it asks us to derive time-like order from something more basic: lawful transformation between pattern states. This is the core inversion of part 26. Change is not motion inside a pre-given time container. Change is lawful transformation from one pattern state to another. Before and after are not primitive. They are readouts derived from transformation ordering, adjacency, and certified pathways. 2. The simplest picture of the inversion. Imagine a flipbook. Each page shows a bird in a slightly different position. Flip the pages in order, and the bird seems to fly. Where did the motion come from? Not from a hidden river of time behind the pages. The motion came from order differences. Page 1 differs from page 2 in a small, lawful way. Page 2 differs from page 3, and so on. The flow of time you feel while watching is a readout of the order transformation among states. A film reel is the same. A melody is the same. A recipe is the same. An ordinary life story is the same. In every case, the deep structure is not time first, change second, but order transformation first, time like order, read second. Part 26 takes this everyday insight and treats it as a foundational rule. If we want a clean foundation, we must not use time as an unexplained background. We must show how time-like order arises from the structure of lawful change. 3. Pattern states. What can change? To speak about transformation, we need a disciplined notion of a state. A pattern state is a declared configuration bundle within a scope. It is not everything about the world. It is the set of certified features we have chosen to treat as the relevant signature for the question we are asking. The invariance we track, the boundaries and domains we respect, the coarse graining we permit, and the stability assumptions we declare. A cup of ice is one state. A cup containing a mix of ice and water is another. A cup of water is another. The same material may persist under one scope, while the internal structure changes under another. State definition is therefore not arbitrary, but it is always scope-bound. If we do not declare the scope, state becomes a vague word and dynamics becomes theater. Part 26, therefore, installs the state definition discipline. Every dynamical claim must declare the source state and the target state as certified bundles within scope. 4. Transformation. What change really means. A transformation is a lawful relation connecting a source pattern state to a target pattern state under declared conditions. This sounds technical, but it is just the grown-up version of a child's question. How did it become that? Every transformation claim must carry 6 kinds of bookkeeping. First, the source state, what we begin with as a certified signature. Second, the target state, what we end with as a certified signature. Third, the transformation conditions, what must be true for the transition to be lawful within scope. Constraints, boundary conditions, domain requirements, interaction couplings, and composition compatibilities. Fourth, preserved invariance, what stays the same across the transformation and anchors identity and persistence. Without preserved invariance, we may have change, but we do not yet have certified continuity. Fifth, lost structure, what cannot be carried through. Honest dynamics must name what disappears or becomes illegible under the transformation. Hidden loss is one of the easiest ways to fake understanding. Sixth, emergent structure, what becomes certifiable only after the change. Honest dynamics must name what is generated. Hidden generation is another easy way to fake understanding. When these 6 pieces are declared, change becomes clear and audit ready. When they are not declared, talk of change collapses into poetry or habit. 5. Everyday examples that reveal the rule. Example 1. The melting ice cube. Place an ice cube on a warm plate. The ordinary sentence is, time passes and the ice melts. But what actually happens is a transformation of pattern structure. The ice state has a rigid crystalline arrangement and a fixed shape under the boundary conditions. The water state has fluid freedom and a different internal organization. The transformation conditions include heat transfer across the boundary and constraints from temperature and pressure. Preserved invariance may include the material identity of the substance under a core scope. Lost structure includes the rigid lattice and stable shape. Emergent structure includes fluid flow and adaptation to the container. Now notice the key point. Time did not push the ice. Time did not act as a force. What we call time passing is simply our name for the ordering of the transformation stages. First the ice state, then a mixed phase, then water. Time is the readout of ordered transformation, not the primitive engine. Example 2. The caterpillar and the butterfly. A caterpillar becomes a butterfly. The transformation is lawful under biological constraints. The source state includes a crawling body plan and certain metabolic patterns. The target state includes wings, new sensory capacities, and new interaction possibilities with the environment. Preserved invariants include continuity of organism identity under biological scope. Lost structure includes the caterpillar's specific form. Emergent structure includes flight capability and a new mode of life. Again, the ordering of stages, caterpillar, chrysalis, butterfly, does not come from an empty time container. It comes from the transformation pathway itself. Before and after are read from the lawful dependency of states. Example 3. Bread. A dough becomes bread. Heat is a transformation condition. Constraints from ingredients, moisture, and temperature define what changes are lawful. Preserved invariants include material continuity at one scope and recipe identity at another. Lost structure includes raw elasticity. Emergent structure includes crust, aroma, and new texture. Anyone who bakes already knows that waiting is not enough. The transformation rule matters. Time is not the cause. The lawful conditions are. Example 4. The broken cup. A cup falls and shatters. The transition from intact state to shard state is lawful given impact conditions and material brittleness. Invariance may include the identity of the material and perhaps some markings. Lost structure includes wholeness and containment function. Emergent structure includes many new edges and a new distribution of pieces. Notice again, saying time passed does not explain shattering. The transformation conditions explain it. 6. The core inversion stated without drama. Ordinary picture. Time first, then change. Pattern picture. Transformation first, then time-like order. This is not a mystical claim. It is a disciplined claim. It says, do not let the word time do the work of explaining. Do not treat before and after as primitive furniture. Instead, state what transformations are lawful and how their ordering is certified. 7. Before and after as derived readouts. In this framework, before and after are not primitive boxes that events fall into. They are derived from transformation ordering. What gives an ordering? One source is dependency. The target state depends on conditions generated by the source state and the transformation rule. Bread depends on baked conditions that presuppose dough. A butterfly depends on the organismal pathway that presupposes a larval stage. Another source is adjacency. Some states are directly reachable from others under lawful transformation, while other states require intermediate steps. A seed is not adjacent to a tree under normal biological rules. Many intermediate states are required. Another source is certified pathways. A path is a sequence of lawful transitions whose steps can be audited. The ordering A, then B, then C becomes public when it can be replayed and certified, not when someone merely asserts chronology. We will formalize adjacency in the next part. Here, we only install the principle. Temporal order is a readout of transformation structure, not an assumed background. 8. Dynamics as state transition structure. Once change is understood as transformation, dynamics becomes a new kind of question. Dynamics is not what moves where in absolute time. Dynamics is what state transitions are lawful, under what rules, with what bookkeeping. In other words, dynamics studies the structure of allowed transitions among states. Which transitions are possible, which are forbidden, which are costly, which branch, which loop, which converge, and which dead end. A city map is a good analogy. The city has places and roads. Not every place connects directly to every other. Some roads are one way. Some routes require many turns. Some paths are blocked. The order of travel is read from lawful connectivity, not from an empty timeline. In the same way, the future of a state is not whatever happens later, but the set of lawfully reachable target states under declared transformation rules. This immediately corrects a naive habit. Many people assume separability and automatic progress. They think every state has one next state, but real systems branch. A seed may sprout or fail. A relationship may deepen or break. A disease may heal or worsen. Branching is not lawlessness. It is conditional lawful transition. 9. Rates, clocks, and why time still appears. If time is derived, why do clocks work so well? Because clocks are patterns with highly regular transformation families. A clock is a machine that produces a stable sequence of state transitions. We use that sequence as a reference readout for ordering other transformations. A pendulum clock uses the regular swing cycle. A quartz clock uses a regular oscillation. An atomic clock uses an even more regular transition. In every case, the clock does not reveal a primitive time substance. It provides a stable transformation reference. So when we say a process took 10 seconds, what we really mean is that the process's transformation pathway spanned an amount of change that corresponds to 10 units of the clock's reference transformation. Time measurement is therefore comparative transformation bookkeeping. This does not reduce time to illusion. It makes time intelligible and disciplined. Time is real as a readout of order change. 10. Persistence inside dynamics part 20 taught us that persistence is certified survival of identity through change. Part 26 integrates that lesson into dynamics. Every dynamical claim must therefore state what persists across the transformation. Otherwise, we cannot tell whether we are seeing one continuing pattern changing state or two unrelated patterns mislabeled as one. A person grows from child to adult. The body changes, memories change, capacities change. Yet some invariants persist. Continuity of organism identity under biological scope, continuity of personal history under social scope, continuity of certain signatures. Dynamics becomes honest only when those invariants are declared. Likewise, a river changes course. Water molecules are replaced every moment, yet the river pattern persists under a geographic and hydrological scope. That persistence is not assumed. It is certified by invariants such as channel structure, drainage relation, and stable constraints. So dynamics is never separated from identity. Change is transformation, but transformation is always tracked against invariants that anchor continuity. Loss and emergence, the two hidden halves of most change stories. Most sloppy explanations of change hide loss and hide emergence. They hide loss by speaking as if nothing was given up. But every real transformation discards something. The ice loses its lattice. The dough loses its raw elasticity. The burned forest loses mature canopy structure. The broken cup loses wholeness. They hide emergence by speaking as if nothing new happened. But many transformations generate new structure. The butterfly gains wings. The choir gains harmony. The city gains institutions. The star gains a new fusion regime. Part 26, therefore, installs an explicit loss and generation bookkeeping rule. If a dynamical claim does not say what is lost and what is generated, it is incomplete. This rule does not exist to burden speech. It exists to prevent fake understanding. 12. The rigor layer, gates for dynamics. Because dynamic language is easy to inflate, Part 26 installs explicit certification gates. The state definition gate. Source and target states must be declared as certified signature bundles within scope. The transformation gate. The transformation family or rule must be declared, including legality conditions. The invariant preservation gate. Preserved invariants must be listed and justified. The loss and generation gate. Lost structure and emergent structure must be declared. The no primitive time gate. Before and after may not be used as primitive explanation. Ordering must be grounded in transformation structure. The pathway preview gate. If a claim implies nextness, it must be ready to hand off to adjacency analysis. These gates transform vague narrative into public, auditable dynamics. 13. Firewalls against smuggling. This part also installs anti-smuggling protections. No primitive time smuggling. Do not treat time as an unexplained container. No motion in container metaphysics. Do not define change as mere movement inside time. No before-after as explanation. Sequence words must be backed by transformation ordering. No state vagueness. Do not use undefined states like it was different without certified signatures. No hidden loss or hidden generation. What disappears and what appears must be named. No metaphor replacing structure. Phrases like becoming, flow, and the passage of time may be used only as summaries, never as the engine of explanation. 14. Certification outputs of Part 26. When Part 26 is installed, the framework gains several concrete outputs. First, we gain a definition of dynamics. Dynamics is lawful transformation among pattern states. Second, we gain a definition of time at this layer. Time is a derived readout of transformation order, not a primitive container. Third, we gain a transformation bookkeeping template. Source state, target state, conditions, preserved invariance, lost structure, emergent structure, scope, and boundaries. Fourth, we gain the dynamics legality gate suite. State, transformation, invariance, loss, and generation. No primitive time. Fifth, we gain a clean bridge forward. Once transformation is primary, we must define adjacency and nextness. 15. Refusal conditions. A dynamical claim must be refused if it says A becomes B without declaring the transformation rule. It must be refused if it uses before and after as primitive explanation without grounding ordering in transformation structure. It must be refused if source or target states are undefined. It must be refused if it hides loss or emergence. It must be refused if it treats time as a primitive background container. Refusal here is not hostility, it is honesty. If we cannot keep the books of change, we cannot certify change. 16. A closing story, the teacher of change. Imagine a teacher with a box of simple objects: ice, water, a candle, dough, bread, a seed, a leaf, a broken cup, and a small clock. A student asks, "What makes everything change?" The lazy answer is time. The teacher smiles and says, "Let us do better than a lazy word." She holds up the ice and the water and says, "These are different states. Tell me what conditions transform one into the other." She shows the candle and says, "This flame persists only by continuous transformation. It is stable because it changes in a regulated way." She shows dough and bread and says, "This is not waiting. This is lawful transformation under heat and constraints." She shows the seed and the sprout and says, "This is not time pushing matter. This is a pathway of state transitions under biological law." Finally, she points to the clock and says, "This is not time itself. This is a pattern that changes so regularly that we use its transformation sequence to measure other transformations." Then she concludes, "Time is what we call the order we read from change. Change is what we certify through lawful transformation between states." That is the essence of Part 26. We do not deny the world's motion. We stop using time as an unexplained background. We begin dynamics where public structure begins, with lawful transformations, with declared states, with preserved invariants, with honest loss and emergence, and with ordering derived from certified pathways. And once we say that, one question becomes unavoidable. What makes one state lawfully next to another? That is Part 27, Adjacency and Nextness. 17. Examples across the universe. One rule, many scales. At the smallest scales, people often imagine change looks like mystery. But even there, what we can certify is still state and transition. A quantum system can be in one state and then, under a declared measurement window, be certified in another. The time between is not a primitive soup. It is the structure of allowed transitions under the chosen window, constraints, and coupling. At the scale of atoms and molecules, chemistry is a library of lawful transformations. Reactants are source states, products are target states. Temperature, catalysts, and boundary conditions are transformation conditions. Conserved atoms are preserved invariants. Broken bonds are lost structure. New bonds are emergent structure. A chemical equation is a compressed coexistence boundary from part 25, and a reaction pathway is a dynamic story from part 26. At the scale of organisms, life is stable not because it resists change, but because it organizes change. Your body keeps a temperature range, a salt balance, and a rhythm of sleep and waking by continuously transforming internal states. Stability is controlled transformation, not the absence of transformation. This is why persistence and dynamics are inseparable. Many patterns persist only by changing lawfully. At the scale of societies, an institution has states too: founding, growth, bureaucracy, crisis, reform, collapse, renewal. Each transition has conditions: resources, legitimacy, conflict, law, technology, trust. Some invariants persist until they do not. Some structure is lost and new structure emerges. History is not an object moving through time, it is a web of transformations. At the scale of the cosmos, a star's life is a chain of state transitions governed by constraints. A gas cloud collapses into a protostar if cooling and density conditions are met. The protostar ignites fusion and becomes a main sequence star when internal constraints cross a threshold. Later, it transforms again when fuel regimes change. The cosmic timeline is a derived ordering of these transformations. 18. A pronounceable way to speak the dynamic skeleton. To keep the language simple and public, it helps to use a short spoken skeleton for any dynamical claim. You can say state 1 goes to state 2 by rule R under conditions K. Spoken in symbols, this is state 1 arrow state 2 with rule R and conditions K. The arrow is not time. The arrow is the certified transformation relation. Then add the books. Invariants I are preserved, losses L occur, and emergencies E appear. So the full pronounceable template becomes state 1 arrow state 2 under rule R and conditions K, preserving I, losing L, and generating E within scope W and boundaries B. This single sentence is the discipline of part 26. It forces every change claim to declare what it means, and it prevents time from being used as a substitute for explanation. Now we are ready for adjacency. Once we have arrows between states, we must ask which arrows count as direct, which require intermediate steps, which are forbidden, and which depend on branch choices. That question will turn the arrow into a map. One more example helps connect this to familiar physics without importing it as primitive. In general relativity, gravity is not treated as a pushing force in the old sense. It is the joint structure of geometry that couples many motions. That is a pattern story. The interaction is co-constraint, and the change is lawful transition along allowed pathways. Music gives the same lesson in softer form. A rhythm does not happen because a time river flows. The rhythm is an ordered pattern of beats, and the feeling of time comes from that order. Tracking dynamics as transformations between states means keeping order honest and naming what stays, what shifts, what disappears, and what appears. This is the practical humility. Explanation is structure. not an empty background word. Always, peace be upon you.